Hello everyone, welcome back to Let Me Tell You Why podcast. Jeremy Jacobowitz. I am Jeremy Jacobowitz, and we got a great episode for you today. I'm going over all of my highlights of my incredible trip to Japan and Korea, plus a ultra giant sized edition of restaurant news since we skipped a week. So much to get to. I cannot wait to share all of it with you. We'll dive deeper into my trip. We'll talk about everything that I loved. This won't be like a comprehensive guide of everything. I will be working on that. I'm trying to write every script and getting every video together. But this would definitely be like the highlights of one of the best experiences of my entire life. But before we get to that, remember jeremyjshop.com. That's where you can get all of the incredible merchandise. Let me tell you why. Egg Salad Sanzo t-shirts. That was definitely a favorite that everyone had from my trip. I got to eat the egg salad sanzo while wearing my egg salad sanzo crew. What an experience. We got the new honey shirts with money going directly to Muddy Paws with every sale of the shirt. And only for you guys, use the code FEB12. You get 12% off, plus free shipping over $75. That's jeremyjshop.com. T-shirts, sweatshirts, crews, hats, ski caps. I'm forgetting other things there. Go check that out. And of course, just like a huge thank you for listening and watching and subscribing. And please keep doing that. This podcast is so much fun for me. It's a way for me to just connect with you guys on another level. And I've been having a blast doing this. I was sad that I wasn't able to do it while I was in Japan and Korea. I thought I would be able to, but I was just at max capacity of what I could put my time towards while I was there. So we skipped a week. It's okay. I'm only in New York for 2.5 days, and then I go to Miami. But then I could finally be back on normal time and schedule. I don't know what the hell is happening. I'm not a big jet lag person, but I have been waking up at 2:30 for the past 2 days here, which is fine. Considering I was 14 hours ahead while I was in Japan, Korea, I think that's successful. And I've been going to sleep at normal time too. Normal time for me, it's still kind of early. I went to sleep last night at 8:30 and I woke up at 2:45 today. That's a decent amount of sleep, and I feel like I'm almost there. Miami's probably going to screw me up, but I'm almost there. My secret to not having complete horrible jet lag is not sleeping on the plane. One, I'm just uncomfortable. It's very hard for me to sleep. But two, what it allows you to do is, no matter what, you land and you're tired, and you're going to have one day where you're really fucking tired. But if you just push yourself and you get there, then you can kind of wake up on a normal schedule. That's what happened in Japan. That's what's happening in New York. So highly recommend being a lunatic and not sleeping on the plane. I also didn't eat on the plane. I refuse hot food on the plane for a few reasons. I flew Korean Airlines back, and they were very nervous that I didn't want to eat on the plane. I mean, one, it's only a 13-hour flight. I don't have to eat. I eat breakfast right before getting on there. And two, I just don't think hot food should be served on a plane. One, it's never good. Even the best airplane food is fine. So do I really have to eat more Korean food after just having incredible Korean food actually in Korea? No. And it just kind of smells. Hot food. If they served me a turkey sandwich on a plane, I'd be yeah, give me a turkey sandwich. Give me some sun chips. Totally down. I don't want hot food. Why do I have to smell that? We're trapped. No hot food. I want to be all clean. I also don't drink on a plane. I want to feel all clean. I want to be awake. Listen, this is definitely a crazy person mentality, but it works for me. So give it a shot and let me know. This podcast is off the rails already. Sorry, guys. But let's get to restaurant news because I skipped a week. We have so many things. From the team behind Electric Burrito comes High Life, their new fast casual burger concept, and that opens February 26th. Super simple menu of burgers, fries, and hot dogs, much like Electric Burrito. It's Cali vibes. Just looking at this burger definitely reminds me of In-N-Out. So I'm thinking that was probably the inspiration, but I'll have to eat it and see for sure. People have been raving about the Golden Swan in the West Village. My sister actually did her birthday party there, and I will say I didn't eat that much, but I ate the fries, and the fries were incredible. But their brunch is about to get even better with the launch of their tableside omelet experience. You will be able to get a classic French omelet with things like butter poached lobster, black truffle, and Osaka caviar. So think top. Fancy. Yeah, I definitely want to get in there for that. Jangukjeom, a favorite Korean barbecue spot from LA, has launched in New York City with prime grade aged beef. Some of the highlights from the menu include Wagyu beef tartare sushi, prime aged tomahawk, yuzu tomato burrata, and so much more. The space looks cool. There's like LED stuff everywhere. It's a sexy, high-end Korean barbecue experience. Bananas is a new Asian fusion restaurant in East Village with a menu full of Asian flair and American favorites. Think miso, Caesar salad, chicken liver mousse of Chinese 5-spice and bagel chips. That sounds incredible. Lemon pepper karaage chicken. Oh my God. And pancakes. Lemon pepper karaage chicken and pancakes. That's better. And way more. That's my kind of menu. Rayon comes in a husband and wife team behind Sugi. Oh, God, I'm screwing this all up. And that opens March 4th. It is a 10-course chef's tasting menu for $255 that is paying homage to all things kimchi that will be used in every single course. Reservations open this week. This looks fancy, but it looks incredible. Upon the Palace recently opens in Tribeca, and that's where you can find the Tongbao, this mega-sized soup dumpling that you need to eat with a straw since it weighs in at 6 ounces. I actually had the same exact thing, or a very similar thing, at the chef's previous restaurant in East Village. I do not remember what the name of the restaurant was at all. I remember, like, yes, it's silly, it's over the top, but it was really good. So yeah, excited for that one. And Krokodok, one of my absolute favorites. This high-end Korean fried chicken restaurant has launched a brand new $24 3-course lunch special that includes a seaweed soup with USDA prime chuck, a halal cart-style chicken and rice with roasted chicken thigh marinated in hanjang, gojugaru, and gojugaru. God damn, that sounds good. And it comes with a soft serve frozen yogurt that's drizzled with passion fruit and condensed milk. Their soft serve is really, really good. And that is available Monday through Friday, noon to 3 p.m. Okay, so let's talk about this trip. I deemed it like only the like bucket list trip because I did so many things that were on my bucket list. It was incredible, like food and more. So it was almost 3 weeks. I did Tokyo. I did 2 stops in Tokyo for so many days I don't remember. I did 1 day in Osaka. I did 1 day in Kobe. I did like 4 days in Kyoto, and then I did like 4.5 days in Seoul, Korea, and just the best trip. God, the food was good. The experience is so good. I will say, like, you know, I've been the other time. This is my 4th trip to Japan and my 2nd trip now to Korea, and every other trip has been the spring. The spring is beautiful. It's a great time to go, you know, especially in Japan. You get cherry blossom season. Like, I'm not going to say don't go then, but with the way tourism is right now, it is so crowded in the spring, and it was so lovely to be there when it wasn't insane. Now, listen, it's still giant cities. It's still a lot of people. There's also Chinese New Year, so there's a lot of people from China there. But going in the winter, and when I say winter, listen, maybe it wasn't typical, but it was like 50 degrees every single day. It was absolutely beautiful in Japan. And so many things I got to do that I wouldn't be able to do. I got to have reservations of things that there's no way I would have gotten a reservation for. You know, I had experiences that I wouldn't have been able to get a ticket for or whatever. And prices weren't insane for hotels, and prices weren't insane for flights, even though they're expensive. So I will say, like, definitely think about going in the winter. Maybe it's a little more cold. As a New Yorker, it definitely wasn't. But I think that, like, the experiences you got were so much better, so much easier. And dollar is still so strong there. The dollar is insanely strong in Seoul. Oh my God, no one talks about that, but like, I was living it up in Seoul for nothing. You know, I stayed at the Grand Hyatt in Seoul, one of the most beautiful hotels I've ever stayed at. I want to say it was like $200 a night. That was more than I was paying in Japan for hotels that were like they were fine, but like very small and not as luxurious as the Grand Hyatt. So I highly, highly, highly recommend this trip. And we'll get to some of my favorite foods in a second, but, you know, I am there for 3 weeks. I was doing things beyond food. Obviously, I couldn't be eating every single day. I will say that, like, I walked as much as I could. I didn't work out, so I needed to replace something, especially the amount of food I was doing. And I would walk miles with my gear, just walk miles. You know, I would look at, okay, I'm going to this restaurant, and it'd be like, okay, it's a 30-minute subway, it's a 25-minute car, or it's like an hour and 15 walk. And I was like, I'll just walk. I have all the time in the world. I might as well like get a workout in, and on top of that, it's such a great way to experience the city. Is just walk, and like I raw dogged it. I would never walk around New York City without headphones on. I'd be looking at my phone the whole time, but I didn't put headphones in once. I just walked around and tried to experience the cities as much as I could on the ground, and it made it so extra special. And then, so I did sumo for the first time. Oh my God. If you remember my video from 2 years ago trying to go to sumo, I screwed up. And the problem with sumo is like, it's not just like always happening. It's happening throughout the year at very specific times in very specific cities. So you have to kind of get lucky with it. And there was a show happening in Tokyo this time. I finally got there. I will say it was a lot of like ceremony, much more than it was like big men fighting each other. It was like 15 seconds of sumo match and like 45 minutes of ceremony. So I love the experience. I love getting there. I finally got to see it. I didn't need to sit there all day, honestly. And the way sumo tickets work is you could kind of go in and out. So you certainly shouldn't be sitting there all day unless you're like a total sumo aficionado. I don't know. But definitely to experience it, you got to experience it once. I saw a women's wrestling show, Joshi Wrestling, and that was a trip. It was a good mix of like really fun, wacky, over-the-top wrestling. They even started off with like a song and dance performance, which was hilarious. But then like some really good wrestling too. Like some matches were tough, man. They were beating the shit out of each other as much as I thought they would, because like Japanese wrestling is tough. But definitely some great matches, some great talent, and just fun and so Japanese. And then while I was there, so they were wrestling in this hall next to the Tokyo Dome. And I got there and I looked up because I was just looking at Tokyo Dome, which is this beautiful, beautiful building. And there's a giant sign saying Maroon 5 tonight. I was like, oh, this is a sign. Maroon 5 is one of my favorite bands since I was a kid, literally almost 30 years. And I was like, I've never seen that, and I'm here. And to see them in Japan, that's crazy. So I went to the Maroon 5 concert. That was a blast. They were fantastic. Some weird things about seeing a concert in Japan, and maybe this was just like specifically the Tokyo Dome, I don't know, but the show started at 6 o'clock. And in America, when they say show starts at 6, like it never starts at 6. I'm just an early person. I go to places on time, so I would have been there anyway, but like it's a good thing I did, because I sat down at like 5:45 and 6:01 they came on stage. First of all, and also the show started at 6. I mean, what a dream. But then they played for an hour and a half or something, and then the show was over. So you're out of there. So what a great experience. Loved it. The concessions were dirt cheap. My beer was $5. To leave was really interesting. Like they ended and everyone sat down. So they're staying the whole time, and it ends, everyone sat down. I was like, oh, so Japan, you do what everyone else does. You do not question these things. So I sat down. I was like, okay, like what is happening? Do we not leave? And then there was like all these announcements, obviously in Japanese. I don't know what they were saying. But then what I realized was happening was that you don't just leave. There were like, I don't know, like 60,000 people there. If everyone just tries to leave, it's a disaster. So what they do is they call out section by section when you're allowed to leave. And in Japan, they listen to rules. So nobody left until their section was called. So you sit there and you wait. And then obviously I didn't know when they called my section, but I saw everyone else stand up and I walked out of there with them. And then the Tokyo Dome itself is air supported. So there are certain exits you have to be careful with. And I went out one of those exits and they were like, wind gusts, like they were like, take off your hat. I was like, what is happening? And because it's air supported, if you just walk out a door normally, it literally blows you out. So I walked out, I'm 200 pounds and I was blown out of the stadium. So really, really fun, just kind of different experience. Team Labs is like the immersive art exhibits that are all over Japan. I've done them a bunch. I always recommend them. There's this new one, Borderless, that I did. I like the other one in Tokyo better, honestly, but still like really, really, really cool immersive art everywhere, like really trippy stuff. I did have a little bit of a panic attack because the idea of this Borderless one is that you're going from room to room, but they're also supposed to like kind of meld into another. And where the past ones, there was like a path to follow. This one, you're just supposed to kind of get lost in. But I did get lost, and then it felt like the walls were closing in on me a little bit, and I panicked. Only I would have a panic attack there. But I made my way out of the room, and it was fine. I survived. Really, really, really cool. And then, of course, shopping. Shopping in Japan. especially if the dollar is so strong. I tried to do as much as I could. I was looking for like old video game stuff, which I picked up. I was looking for old toy stuff, some of that I picked up. I went to all these wrestling stores. That was cool. I was looking for camera stuff always. Didn't really find any of that. That made sense. I was looking for computer stuff too. Didn't find any of that made sense. But Akihabara in Tokyo is this neighborhood where it's just like all these like tech stores, camera stores, toy stores, nerd stores. I went there and back there multiple times because it's just endless shops to check out there. So that was really, really, really cool. But yeah, overall, just like great. I mean, I've done this trip a bunch of times now and I love it every single time. And I could only recommend it so much. But obviously the biggest thing that I did was the food. So let's go through some of them. This isn't every meal, but some of the things that are just like on top of mind that I loved so much. So let's start with Japan. 7-Eleven. I mean, listen, I know it sounds like I'm a broken record at this point, but 7-Eleven and the rest of the Japanese convenience stores, that's like Lawson's and Family Mart or the other ones, are just, it's a must. It's an absolute must when you visit. Literally, they are on every single corner. I ended up there for breakfast every single morning, a midday snack, dinners when I was too tired for full restaurants, and dessert. It's dirt cheap. The food is so much better than it needs to be, and like just a total Japanese experience. And of course, the exiled sando is my favorite thing ever. But yeah, like I mean, other things I ate were like the karage, the onigiri, coffee every day, their sweets, their treats. Oh my god, I love them. I got a video coming soon. I tried all their fried chickens that they had there. So Family Mart, Lawson, and 7-Eleven, and we're gonna do I did a little comparative video to find out which one was best, because we all know my favorite exile santo was 7-Eleven, but we'll find out soon which one was my favorite chicken. Tony's Pizza was in Tokyo, and tucked away in the Kichijoji neighborhood in Tokyo is Tony's Pizza and the almost 90-year-old owner, Fujiwara Kamakichi. So after traveling to the US in the 60s and working at a Tony's Pizza in Brooklyn, Fujiwara opened up his own Tony's Pizza, where he put his own magical spin on the pizza that he had in New York City. And what he wanted to do was sort of like make it for the Japanese palate. So it's really interesting. It's pizza like I've never had before. He uses a mix of yeast and Oshon flour, which is usually found in ramen. And then it's a 3-cheese blend of Dutch Edam mozzarella from Germany and Danish Maribo. And the pizza just had it's like really soft, really interesting chew, where because there's so much cheese on there and because it's so chewy dough, it almost just like melds into this one bite. And watching him just he still makes every single pizza. He's 90 years old. He's making every single pizza there every single day. And to experience that was so super special. I really, really, really loved it. So even though it wasn't like the best pizza I've ever had in my entire life, and not even the best pizza I've had in Tokyo, I love that experience of eating there. Okonomiyaki is one of my favorite dishes in Japan. It's a light batter over cabbage in a pancake shape, and then you could go crazy with the other ingredients. I got shrimp and pork, and it was topped with okonomiyaki sauce, kewpie, scallions, and bonito. I got this from Okonomiyaki Sakaba in Osaka. There's Osaka style and there's Hiroshima style. They're vary a little bit differently. I do think I remember liking Hiroshima style more, but just this dish is just like so hearty, like pretty healthy, honestly, beyond delicious. And I had this with a cold beer, and I just left with like the biggest smile on my face. It's a must-eat dish, and this one is fantastic. Backstreet Coffee in Osaka. Was I not going to get the biggest egg salad santo ever? This bad boy is made with a dozen eggs. In Trump's America, we can't even fathom that. And 7 centimeters of shokupan. What I love the most was that even though this dish is, it's kind of silly, like everything in Japan, the same amount of care was put into this, no matter what level kind of food it is. It took him 20 minutes just to toast the bread perfectly, as he kept taking it out to scrape off the burnt parts, putting it back in the oven, taking it out, putting it out, scraps it, toasted it in a pan, put more butter into it, put it in the oven. Like watching him do this was just like truly magical and legitimately so good, even if I couldn't come close to finishing it. Monk in Kyoto is one of the hardest reservations in the entire world, and I was lucky enough to grab one at this hyper-local veggie pizza omakase restaurant. This was featured on Chef's Table Pizza, I actually just watched the episode right before recording this because I'm writing the script for the video right now. I just kind of wanted to dig deeper. And it's just one of the absolute best eating experiences in the whole world. Like, blown away by how special it was. Just the thought put into the entire experience and the vibes and the mood and how hyper local those veggies were and how delicious those veggies were. And then, of course, the pizza. They have all these different varieties. Truly, and everything was cooked in a wood-fired oven. Truly, truly, truly special. Mind-blowing that this whole thing was only $100. And just this thing, this is what I say this a lot too. It's like, what I loved about it was that he could come to America and he could open up a restaurant and he could do something very similar. Veggie focused, local veggie focused, incredible wood-fired pizza, okay. But he can't replicate what he can do in Kyoto here. And that's what makes it so unbelievably special. And that's what makes it one of the hardest reservations in the world. And I will make a whole video about how I got the reservation. There were definitely no special treatments. I got no special treatments anywhere in Japan, frankly. I just got very, very, very lucky. So I'll talk about that another point. But truly a one-of-a-kind meal. And yeah, just beyond special. And then speaking of pizza, back at Savoy in Tokyo, one of the best Tokyo-style pizza spots. And this time I went there to try their Pacific Bluefin tuna pizza, aka the tuna. I deemed it a tuna melt pizza. It's mayonnaise, it's corn sauce, it's cheese, and then this like sushi grade tuna they put on top of it. They put it into the oven, and it comes out where the tuna is just kind of cooked on the outside, and then they break it up and put it across the pizza. And it's still raw, like tuna, and you get a little wasabi to put onto it, and ooh, it was heavy. It was heavy, but what a pizza experience. And then for my final meal in Japan, I went big. Yakiniku Kappo Note is this incredible A5 Wagyu omakase experience. Just like the flavors, the presentation, the quality of meat, like absolutely worth the splurge of $315 plus drinks. But again, like I'm going for these experiences. I'm going to eat this incredible food. I'm going for these things that, yes, on paper you get similar in New York or anywhere, but you can't truly get them other than going to Japan. And that's a lot of the thing about the Exxon Sando. I might make a whole video about this too, because I keep thinking about this. And what makes it so special is, on the surface, it's so simple, but it's truly something really difficult to execute. And people look at it and go, it's just white bread and egg salad. You can make that at home. So many comments. You can make that at home. You can't make it at home. You certainly can't make it at home in America. A few reasons. One, you do need really good shokupan. You could get that a lot of places. That's fine. The egg salad itself, you don't know the ratios. You don't know how finely chopped up the egg whites are. You don't know those things. You could get close, but you're not going to get exactly how much sugar's in there, because they're just a little sweet. Is there MSG in it? Probably. They definitely use QP, okay, but you will not get the ratios right. And then here's the really important part of it, why it can't be replicated. One, every single egg salad sando from a restaurant in America, they are afraid to have it be so delicate. They feel like Americans don't want this delicate bite. They gotta load it up with egg salad, which destroys the integrity of what makes the sandwich so goddamn good and why it's like $1.25 in Japan. I bet that's my note back to all these restaurants every time. I'm like, this is delicious. Give me a quarter of what you were serving, and you could serve and you could charge less. Two, and here's the magic. Here's the magic that nobody understands. So they make these sandwiches, and it goes to 7-Eleven. It sits in the fridge, their fridges. And normally, like, I don't want a sandwich sitting in the fridge. That's gross. Because, the bread gets kind of cold and weird, and like, but how is it still so soft? So in Japan, they can keep the fridge temperatures at the konbinis at a higher temperature than what's allowed in America. So what they're able to do is keep it at this perfect, like just under room temp, where the sandwich is able to sit enough so the egg salad just kind of melds into that bread just enough, which you need to do. That's part of the secret. You can't just cut it and serve it. It'll still taste good, but it won't be the same. It sits just long enough, at that perfect temperature. So it melds into that bite, but the bread is still so soft, just under room temperature. And it is a magical experience. And it's something you have to experience. And all the haters are people that haven't had it. They just haven't. You can go through the comments. Every single comment that someone that's eaten it is like, oh my God, yes, I dream about this. And people that haven't had it are like, this is fucking stupid. Well, my whole thing is go try it. And if you hate it, then okay, that's fine. The food is subjective. But I hate the hates on things that you haven't had. Exile sounds a rant over, but I'll be talking a lot more about that. But okay, that was just a taste of what I did in Japan. So much more coming. Again, I'll probably do deep dive episodes once I have everything done with full guides. I'll update that Google map I sent out earlier in an earlier episode all about Tokyo. We'll redo the guides. We'll add Kyoto for sure, because I will say, like, now going back for the fourth time, where Tokyo is this like out of world experience that I've never seen anywhere else. It's still a lot, it's still a lot. In Kyoto, especially with no tourists when I was there, it is just like so peaceful and relaxing and still incredible food and easier to get around. It kind of almost feels like the Brooklyn to Manhattan a little bit, where it's just like a touch quieter, a touch smaller building. You know what I mean? The vibes are right, a little more artsy. I think if you go to Japan, Tokyo you have to go to, but I do think number 2 is Kyoto, and you might like that more anyway. But okay, let's get to Seoul. The eating experience in Korea is just, to me, the best in the whole world. And that's not necessarily like what I mean is like the best food is in Korea. I still think the best food is in Japan. But the actual experience of eating is unmatched in Korea. Where it was wonderful to be in Japan and have all these like solo dining experiences, because I was a solo traveler, it kind of makes it easier, honestly. There is food, I don't know, it should be always just like that solo experience. In Korea, it is the complete opposite. It's all built around sharing, having a good time, vibes. So a perfect example of that is the first night I went to, I'm going to screw up all these names, so I apologize ahead of time. Walwa Sikdang was the perfect first meal in Korea. Korean barbecue is unmatched to me. And this one had this dish I've never had before. Oh boy, here we go. Samgyeopsal. No clue. It's a piece of pork that's actually aged in beeswax. It was so super tender, full of flavor, and with a cold beer, I was in heaven. Like literally, like having gone a few weeks in Japan, having all the solo things, and the cultures are very, very, very different. Koreans like to fucking have a good time, drink a ton, and just eat and have a blast. And I sat there and I was like basically in tears. I was like, this is why I'm in Korea. I love it here. I will say that because it was all done, a lot of the meals in Korea aren't made for one person. I didn't get the full experience necessarily, and I certainly had to probably over order food and pay more than someone I was sharing it, but I didn't care. I was there. I wanted it. Salt bread has become a favorite in Seoul, and one of the best spots to get them is Artist Bakery, which has a huge array. They're sort of like almost brioche in a croissant shape, and you could get them both sweet and savory varieties. So you go in there, you walk in with your tray, and you go around to pick out what you want. Like I saw people literally filling up the tray. There were dozens of these things on the tray. I got 4. They were lighter than I thought they would be. So I didn't finish all 4 of them, but definitely like that was enough. Yeah, God, I don't know why they're not in New York, honestly. Like, it doesn't seem that hard of a thing to have here. People love croissants, people love brioche, people love all these flavors, people love that experience. So hopefully we get some salt bread in America. Oh, and there's literally salt on top. That's why it's salt bread. But it doesn't taste salty necessarily. It just has like a couple big chunks of salt resting on top, just sort of like always at balance, which I love. 1-star old-fashioned burger was a trip. It was almost like stepping into a time machine, going to a fast food burger spot in the 1980s. But beyond the aesthetic, they had this incredible charred grilled burger and some of the biggest onion rings I've ever seen. Fantastic fries. So they had like I ordered, and it was a little thing that said special menu. I was like, oh, what's the secret menu? I was like, what's the secret menu? And it's basically you could go double patty. So I went double patty, and it's like filled with mustard and so many pickles and this like onion situation on there too. Sauteed onions on there also. Yeah, really, really, really good. Mill toast. People line up every single morning for breakfast here. Their menu is super focused on their French toast and steamed bread. I got this really cool corn. Yes, that's like an actual grilled piece of corn on the bread, cornbread. Not the bread itself was a cornbread, we're gonna call it cornbread. But the steamed bread was my favorite. They serve you this basket. There's like a bunch of different varieties, and they're steaming when you walk in. And you serve it in front of you, unwrap it, and it's steamed, flies up. And inside, you pick what's inside of it. So I got one with sweet potato, like just like chunks of sweet potato. Japanese, Korean sweet potato. Yeah, so like not orange sweet potato, which that sweet potato is my favorite. And one of chestnuts. Really, really great. Got there early. People are already lined up, so get there on time. But really great. And then Embassy of Korean Sausage. My God, did I love this sizzling songtang bude jjigae, aka army stew. There was an ungodly amount of meat in this thing, bubbling, super, super flavorful. And of course, there's like sausage and hot dog and other ground meat in this thing. It's meat on meat on meat on meat. And then I top it with American cheese. It was so good. Like, I was intimidated at first. I was like, how do I even attempt to eat this? But I kept going and going and going. I could have kept going. Like, if I wasn't eating more than a normal person on this trip, I mean, this was one that they were like, this is for two people. I'm like, don't worry, I'll pay for it anyway. I almost could have eaten the whole thing. But yeah, so even more stuff I'm going to discuss with Seoul soon. But man, I love Seoul. It's more comfortable of a place for me to be than Japan. As much as I love Japan, as much as I love like taking a trip to Japan, did you think like Seoul is much more livable? More people speak English. It's a little more westernized. Yeah, I love it. I regret not spending more time in Seoul. I regret not spending more time in Korea. There's so many other cities in Korea I have to go to, but you know, there's always time for another trip. So I will just have to get back. I'm already thinking about my next trip though. I'm thinking maybe Montreal. I've been there for years and the food is great. It's an easy place to get to from New York. I don't know when I'm gonna do my next like giant international trip, although I'm going to London in June. But that's for my sister's wedding. But maybe Montreal, maybe like Boston, maybe Pittsburgh. I don't know. Let me know where you guys think I should go. Okay, so before we go, let's talk about what I'm into. So on my flight home from Korea, there was no Wi-Fi. I bought tickets through Delta. It was a flight through Korean Airlines. And we took off, and I was like, when's Wi-Fi going to kick on? When's Wi-Fi going to kick on? And then the flight attendant, I'm like, I'm sorry, Wi-Fi? And she was like, oh no, we don't have any. And just walked away. I was like, what? How are you so casual about this? I don't understand. Like, listen, I don't understand at all how there's no Wi-Fi. But how could we not be warned? If I'm booking a ticket, I need to be told there's no Wi-Fi. Because guess what? I wouldn't book it. I would look for another goddamn flight. Or at least I would try and be prepared. There should be flashing red lights everywhere and a million emails. The amount of emails and texts I get from these fucking airlines warning me about everything. The only thing I need to actually know is that there's no Wi-Fi. So I could have mentally and physically prepared myself for this 13-hour flight that I would have without goddamn internet. But one of the benefits of that was that I watched a lot, including Bad Boys Ride or Die. I don't even know if I've seen any of the previous 3 films, honestly, but I might have to go back and watch them after seeing this one. What a movie. Just like a movie. Like, really fun action. Some of the craziest camera shots I've ever seen in a film. Like, maybe a touch gimmicky, but what they did was so cool that I thought was really, really just interesting. A fun story. And what I actually mostly appreciated was like the aspects of like men and the story of men is so often not seen in films like this or in films at all. Like, they deal with mental health, they deal with male friendships, they deal with getting older, they deal with family, just like all presented in such a refreshing way. And I will say, like, I know this like isn't a shock, especially for someone from the 90s, but like Will Smith is just a goddamn movie star. He oozes charisma in a way that we just like don't see anymore of. And I think that he's had some PR issues over the past few years, and that has like taken away a little bit of his like star power, but you can never take away this man's presence on a screen. And it was just a joy to watch him in this movie. So yes, highly recommend Bad boys, ride or die. What you're going to do. But okay, that's it. Oh my gosh, I need to sleep at some point. But thank you guys for listening, watching. Please subscribe wherever you're listening, watching to this. Like it, leave a comment, leave a review, share this podcast. And I am going to be off to Miami for the South Beach Wine Food Festival. 4 days of every single person I know in the restaurant industry just drinking and eating and having the absolute best time. And I will see you again in 2 weeks.